Some 80 million cubic meters of timber are extracted from Swedish forests every year. Yet forwarding has undergone less development over the past 25 years than the other operations in the wood flow. Efficient forwarding involves more than just finding the right working method. Pre-planning, communications, and effective follow-up of the work are all equally important. Forwarding must be seen in the context of the entire operation. Your work as a forwarder operator is influenced by those who built the main haul road or forest truck road and those who felled the timber. You, in turn, influence the next operation in the flow, secondary haulage. A number of key people have helped in the making of this film. Forwarder operator Pelle Johansson, harvester operator Åke Larsson, and as Johansson, Michael Pettersson and Emil Andersson. Buyer and supervisor Per Eriksson, forest owner Ingemar Eriksson, and last but not least, the man who'll be guiding us through the film, Esa Strand. Esa is also a methods instructor. Now you might think that the forwarder's job starts here, soon after the site's been harvested, but the conditions governing your work are set much earlier.
This is the foundation for efficient forwarding, a well-constructed road.
The truck road isn't just there for the road haulage rigs, but also contributes to an effective logging operation. Before logging is started, the forest owner obviously inspects the existing roads and facilities as well. The road should be built a year in advance to give it time to settle and become firm and steady. Remember that the standard of the road also determines when the logging can be done. If the stand is to be harvested during the spring thaw, for instance, the road has to be up to it. Ensure that there are no obstructions between the road and the forest. An experienced excavator operator can soon deal with those. Create forwarder access roads every 100 meters. The brow of a hill, where the watershed's located, is one good point. Hard-standing places for rest huts and vehicles are constructed separately. They mustn't be sited on the road, such as in turning zones or on landings.
Road built to the same standard as this one provides a sound foundation for profitable logging. This site is soon to be harvested. So what preparations should be made to ensure that the logging team can do a good job?
First, any special requirements and conservation measures specified by the owner should be marked on the map, and ideally marked out in the woods as well. Both the site boundary and the landing should also be marked out. All site information must be carefully recorded. Data on volume, assortments, conservation measures and the like are entered. When all the information is complete, the next step is equally important, passing it on to those who will be doing the work. The sketch map, together with the harvesting details, must be sent to the logging team in good time. Special requirements may need to be discussed over the phone. All the information must be well documented if the team is to complete its task properly.
Okay, let's see what the logging team is up to.
Having received the information, the logging team is now meeting in the hut to plan the work. Since not every member of the team can attend every meeting, it's vital that those who are absent are given details of the meeting as soon as possible afterwards. The team members do the general planning together. Planning of the operating strips and strip roads should aim at keeping the extraction distance as short as possible. Plans should ensure that the forwarder will always be able to drive straight uphill or downhill on slopes. Lateral slopes and tight turns at the end of roads should be avoided. When the planning's been completed, work can start. Here, the first job is to create a landing adjacent to the truck road. Make sure that the size of the landing is adequate for the volume of timber to be extracted. There must be enough room for both incoming and outgoing transports. Ensure as well that the forwarder can load timber from the stand side without having to drive onto the truck road. In hilly terrain, ensure that the landing is located on a site where there is no danger of timber piles slipping or collapsing. For safety reasons, landings should not be sited on bends, on the crown of a hill, on hillsides, near crossroads, or under overhead lines. Nor should any standing trees be left on the landing. Now, harvesting of the stand can get underway. If the forwarder's working close to the harvester must operate in such a way that it won't obstruct the forwarding work. The harvester operator must sort the timber so that the forwarder operator can readily identify the different assortments. A good way is to place the assortments in a given sequence that the harvester and forwarder operators have agreed in advance. The timber should be bunched in piles so that the forwarder won't be forced to bunch the timber prior to loading. This saves valuable time. Productivity studies have shown that good sorting by the harvester results in a lower overall logging cost. Keep the piles free from slash. Slash greatly reduces forwarder productivity.
We have seen how the harvesting operation sets the conditions in which the forwarder will work. So let's now move on to the forwarding operation itself.
Now to look at a sport that most people will not have heard of. Pelle Johansson is the several-time Swedish champion and also the world champion. The sport, forwarding.
We've taken it for granted that the forwarder is in good condition and that the operator has an ergonomically correct approach. We shall instead be focusing on the methods used. The forwarder arrives at the site a few days after the harvester. There is now a sufficient volume of the different assortments for the forwarder to be able to operate efficiently. The harvester operator briefs the rest of the team about the site. He's been working there for a few days now and can thus pass on important site information. For example, areas in which special conservation measures have been taken, or where the ground may be soft, all of which the forwarder operator needs to know. Changing over of operators should take place near the rest hut or landing, as this saves considerable time. The operating strips and strip roads that the harvester opened up together with the timber harvested have set the framework for the forwarding. The first thing you need to do is to get a good overall picture of the site. This is crucial for efficient operation. Start work at the far end of the site. Always work smoothly and methodically. This is not the way to do it. Start with the main assortment. You can easily identify the different assortments because the harvester has piled them in the agreed sequence. This is where having an overall picture of the site is so useful, as you can load other odd assortments at the same time when appropriate. Drive slowly between the piles when loading and don't stop for too long. You can increase productivity by driving and loading simultaneously. But sometimes you have to stop, in thinnings for example, to avoid damaging the residual trees. Your machine's highly maneuverable, so always put it in the optimum position for loading each pile. If you're loading on a slope in a thinning site, position the boom at an angle of 45 degrees and pointing up the hill to avoid hitting the trees. Always try to fill the grapple. If a large pile and a small pile are placed side by side, fill the grapple from the large pile first. Next, bunch the remaining timber into a single pile. This can reduce boom operating time by 50%. Using the ground to align the ends of the logs isn't only time-consuming, but also results in soil and stones and the like getting mixed in with the timber. So don't. Generally, the best way to align the logs is against the cab guard, although if you're loading 3-meter pulpwood bolts, you can use the side of the load instead. The ends are often aligned unnecessarily. However, if you are forced to use the ground, pick up the timber at a point that allows it to hang as near vertical as possible as you lift it. Rest the bottom ends on the ground. Open the grapple a little, lowering it at the same time as you use the rotator to realign the logs. Watch out that the logs don't hit the residual trees as they swing up again. Grip the bunch at the point of balance. Raise the grapple as it closes around the logs to prevent picking up slash and other contaminants. Move the boom along the shortest path. When swinging the load in, don't let the logs or grapple hit the residual trees. Always avoid swinging the boom and rotating the load unless absolutely necessary. Work with precision here rather than going for speed and risking making mistakes. Stack the logs against the stakes. This leaves a trough in the middle and helps prevent the logs becoming criss-crossed. Open the grapple as you raise it slowly. The logs will fall into place better. To keep the load level, load the bunches alternately, top and butt end to the grind. When you've cleared the main assortment, drive along the same strips again and pick up the remaining assortments. As these are more spread out and in smaller piles than the main assortment was, you should load different assortments together this time to maintain good productivity. If necessary, you can top up the load with the main assortment nearer the landing to ensure a full load. When carrying several assortments, you need to keep them separated. Load small dimension assortments into the bottom of the trough or against the stakes, as this will make unloading easier. Where the strip road meets the truck road, use logs to fill in any ditches. The junction shouldn't be at a right angle, as tight turns will cause the road to break up and become rutted. Don't forget to remove the logs afterwards. And now to unload the timber. When unloading, you must always give thought to how the timber will be handled at the next stage. This means piling the timber in a way that will make it easy for the truck to collect it. Unloading should be done off-road. Avoid driving onto the truck road, particularly if the forwarder has tracks fitted, which can easily damage the road. However, if the road is of a good standard and the edge of the stand is close to the landing, then using the road can make good sense. You can unload the different assortments more efficiently by using both sides of the road. Start by unloading and stacking the main assortment closest to the site. This keeps the extraction distance as short as possible. It's important to keep the assortments concentrated at the landing as well. This enables more timber to be stacked in a given area and leads to the trucks being loaded more efficiently. Always unload the timber closest to the stakes first. This gives the load a convex shape, which is easier for the grapple to get hold of. Keep boom movements to a minimum. You can save a lot of time if the distance from the boom's slewing point to the midpoint of the load is the same as to the midpoint of the stack. grip the logs at the point of balance. This not only gives the minimum lifting height, but also provides maximum control of the logs as you place them on the stack. Extend the telescopic boom section at the same time as you lower the load, as this also saves time. Build the base of the stack first, so that there's always support for the next bunch. Keep the stack as flat as possible. Never stack timber on soft snow. The pile can just suddenly collapse. During the winter, always keep a strip between the road and the ditch free from timber to leave room for the large banks of snow left by the snowplows. If you really have to align the log ends, do so against the forwarder, whether it's off-road or on the truck road. But don't overdo it. The stacks might look neater, but it takes time and is of no benefit to subsequent handling. Try to keep the logs at right angles to the road. Remember, they're going to be loaded onto a truck later on. A well-built stack only needs the log ends to be roughly aligned, logs within overall depth of 5.5 meters. Will be high, upright, not leaning over, and free from stones, slash and other contaminants. The stacks of logs are the end product of your forwarder's work and constitute the basis for efficient secondary haulage. Continual labeling or marking of the timber means that further transport can take place without delay. Different assortments will be going to different buyers. Make sure that you label the timber with the correct assortment code. This is where trimming of the logs is also done. At the end of your shift, you need to send in details of the volume of timber that you've extracted during the day. Yes, there's plenty to think about, and it's thus important that you know who to get in touch with if you encounter problems during your work. You should be told this at the time the logging team is given the assignment. Following up the work is also vital. This logging team has been given a special form for the purpose. Here, they note down the tasks that have been completed and also any instances of where they were unable to execute the work as planned. This not only enables the team to monitor its own performance, but also reveals if the information the team's been given is inadequate to enable it to perform at its best. Once the timber's been measured, the logging team should also be given the figures on the volume harvested, the percentage of rejects, and the reason for them, and so on and so on. This information can also lead to further improvements in the work.
Pelle has been operating forwarders for almost 20 years, but it took nearly 5 years before he felt he had mastered every aspect of the work. So it's just like any sport. Practice, practice and practice.
Many logging teams have benefited from regular further training in working methods, the result being a more efficient team. Such training also provides an opportunity to learn about the latest developments on the methods front. So, let's recap on what the film has shown. Take account of future logging work when building forest truck roads. The timber buyer and the logging supervisor must carry out the preparatory work necessary for the logging team. General planning of the site is done by the team. The harvester operator paves the way for efficient forwarding. The forwarder operator must first gain an overall picture of the site and then think ahead when working. Communications between the team and the supervisor and between individual team members must be carefully thought through. Follow up, checking your own work and feedback of the results guarantee the quality of the work. Regular further training enhances skills.